Network. I am Seven. I'm here with Tristan Elwell.
That's me.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. So, we're at FANFAIRE,
We are?
and it is live again. This is the first annual FANFAIRE.
Hopefully.
Yeah. and they're raising money for kids with supplies
Yep.
and art, and this is at the Art Design High School.
Yep. And it's a benefit. The PTA organized this to raise funds for supplies and other things for the kids because art can be an expensive business.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you're an artist as well as a professor, so you understand the educational
Yes.
side to it.
Yes, I'm an illustrator and I teach at the School of Visual Arts.
So what's your journey in reference to, like, how'd you get into it, and then just going from creating to now teaching other creatives?
Well, it's interesting because we're here at Art and Design,
Right.
which is one of the specialized high schools in New York. I actually went to school at the High School of Music and Art, which I maybe shouldn't be saying out loud here because there was a bit of a traditional rivalry
Oh, really?
between the two schools. Music and Art is part of what's now the LaGuardia High School. But I think that in the specialized school system in New York is really, really important. It's an opportunity for public school kids to be exposed to things and to have opportunities that are really, really difficult otherwise. So that was part of it. Is that I went to school in the city, and then I went to the School of Visual Arts, and then I started working as a freelancer, getting book cover and magazine illustration work, pretty much right after school. And I've been doing it for a very, very long time.
You earned your stripes.
I've earned this.
Yeah. And that's okay. And that's okay. And I have to say that because at some point,
Exactly.
I got the baby one. I got the baby one right here.
There you
At some
go.
point it'll grow. So was it hard though because freelancing, you're running around, you're doing all this work. Was the teaching kind of helped you as an artist? Or,
Well, what teaching? I'll
some
say.
people say it distracts them because they can't run around and do as much as
Oh
they
no,
want.
no! I love teaching, and because for one thing, as a freelancer, it's a very, very isolating lifestyle. It's very
Okay.
easy for people to just stay in all the time. I was on a panel earlier today about freelancing, and it was pretty much nothing but not wearing pants jokes. Because that's one of the things that you can do.
Right.
But I really like teaching because it's something that I have to do that's out of the house. It's something that I do that keeps me involved, and I'm forced to stay aware of current trends and all that
Okay.
sort of stuff. And I just really enjoy it too.
Right. Yeah, I get. I want to say kids because you're dealing with young adults, correct?
Yes.
Right.
They're
But they keep you.
they're still kids.
But it keeps you on. Like, hey, what's going on?
Exactly.
Hey, this is new.
Exactly.
Check out this new program.
Exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So what do you get out of this? I mean, seeing all these kids. 'Cause
Well,
these are
I mean,
kids.
yeah, I
And-
like it. It's good. Like I said, I think it's important to give back for things like this. I've a very, very old friend of mine who I actually was in middle school with. Was one of the organizers of this event, which is how I got involved with it because he now has a child who is here at Art and Design.
Wow.
I got the call, and I answered the call, and here I am.
The bat signal
Exactly,
went off, and
exactly.
you were ready to go.
You bet.
How often do you donate your time to support different things with the arts?
Well, it's probably not as much as I should, but I think in some ways I think the teaching is part of that.
Okay.
Just because you keep things going. You keep the knowledge. It's very important to keep the knowledge.
So as you say that, all I see is like the Lion King.
Well, it's true though. It's interesting because especially in the visual arts,
Okay.
there's a real within the fine art world, there's always been this sort of this story that people told about art education in the fine art world in the course of the 20th century. Because if you know anything about art history, you know that in the 20th century there was this real move away from representationalism.
Right.
And in the fine art world, people love to moan and wail and gnash their teeth about all this lost knowledge, about how the from the 50s to the 80s it was horrible and all this knowledge was lost. And it wasn't actually. All that knowledge continued because there was the commercial art world, there was the illustration world, where it was still very important that things look like things. So that representational art tradition
Didn't go anywhere.
It didn't go anywhere.
It just kind of snuck into different media.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in the last generation or so, there's been such a resurgence of that because of technology and because of the rise of video games and the rise of science fiction and fantasy and superhero movies that have this incredible need for imagery that has to be created, that can't be found. And so there's this huge market now for representational art skills, but also representational art skills that aren't just, looking at a still life or a landscape and drawing or painting it exactly what the way it looks, but the ability to invent and create imagery that is convincing. And that's all, sort of the skills that we're concerned with.
Interesting. Do you feel the art of messaging, sending a message, helping people to expand and grow, or just be able to tell a story? Do you feel that that's stagnant, getting better, or worse?
Well, I think that it's really hard to say, those sorts of big cultural trend questions.
Right.
But I do think it's a really, really important one. I think that the kind of artwork that I do and the kind of artwork that I teach is all about visual communication. It's all about telling some sort of story or conveying some sort of information.
Right.
And the first thing that when I'm teaching, one of the things I really emphasize is in order to be able to do that, you have to know what it is that you're trying to say. You have to understand what your concept or your message or your narrative is. And once you do that, then all the other problems become smaller because the solutions to those problems are to some degree contained within the problem itself once you've figured out what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Even with writing, you have to feed yourself constant knowledge.
Yes, and that's
constant experiences and
exactly.
life for you to, they say like in music, the best songwriters are the ones that have experienced the most pain.
Well, for certain kinds of songs, that's going to be true. That's definitely, it's the whole thing about how the blues doesn't come from nowhere.
Right. So.
But I also think that, and this is especially important for the arts because there is that stereotype of, the suffering artist and also the starving artist. And I think it's really important that people understand that you don't have to starve.
That was one of those relating light bulb.
Yeah, exactly. But it's true because, and I think that's another thing that it's important for, especially for high school kids, to understand, because I think the general public only has two models for what an artistic lifestyle is. And one is a superstar, and the other one is a starving artist.
Right.
Because everybody knows about stars because everybody knows about them.
Right.
And everybody knows about people who, wanted to do something but never quite could because everybody just knows those people.
Right.
But there's a lot in between those two extremes.
There's a lot of people making
exactly
very good living.
Yeah, there's
doing
people
creative things.
There are people who are, having kids and paying their mortgages and living everything from, comfortable to very, very comfortable lifestyles.
Actually,
doing things like, playing music and dancing and acting and making pictures and all, and writing and all of those things.
I think it's very important at this moment, especially the fact you're a professor,
Mm-hmm.
just to name some of the career choices
Mm-hmm.
that are just overlooked by
Mhm.
pop culture.
Sure.
A lot of, because I had this earlier conversation, I was saying, A, I want to draw a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
A, I want to, do maybe graphics for commercials. Or I want to do a video game.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more.
Well, the thing to remember about the visual arts is that anytime you see a picture
Mm-hmm.
anywhere,
Right.
that came from somebody. Somebody made
Right,
that. Even
right.
if it's a photograph, somebody took that photograph. These things don't magically appear
Right.
all by themselves.
Right.
And not only that, but especially in terms, anytime you see a thing, even if it's not a picture, somebody designed that.
Right.
So there were people, even when the final product that most people are interacting with isn't a picture, isn't a drawing or a painting or
Right.
something like that, there's still artists involved in the creation of those
Somewhere in
things.
the process.
Somewhere in the process. And the other thing is, because, let's sort of flip the script here and get a little bit depressingly real.
Okay.
Any sort of
Yeah.
artistic career is very, very difficult, and
Yeah.
and the success percentage is still very, very small. So the people who go to art school, a very, very small percentage of people who go to art school actually end up making a full-time living doing the thing that they majored in. But that's true of a lot of professions.
majors, yeah.
But I think that the problem-solving skills that you get from an art training and the change in perception that you get from learning how to draw, learning how to paint, all those things, those are skills that have an application beyond just the direct one in terms of making pictures.
I think that schools like Art and Design High School
Mhm.
are going to change those statistics. Because these kids are, I can't stress it enough. These kids are amazing. Like, I go to a lot of different comic book conventions,
Mhm.
and I've seen a lot of people do things, and I think these kids are either right below at, or some of them even above what I've seen on average at conventions. And I'm so, they're like
Yeah,
my
it's-
babies. They're like my little adopted babies for
That's
the day.
great.
I think it's amazing.
Well, I think technology has a lot to do with that too.
Well, yes,
because
yeah.
people have so much more access to things and so
Right.
much more exposure to things. And it's like any sort of field, the bar is continually being raised.
Right.
We just had the Olympics, and they talked about how a couple of years ago, people were doing, the male figure skaters were doing, one or two quadruple jumps in their routines.
Wow.
And now, somebody just did 6 in the routine, and that becomes. Well, yeah. Well, no, not 6 spins.
Oh,
No.
okay, okay.
Six quadruple jumps.
Oh, okay. I'm like, it's like the Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Of,
But that's what happens. That's what happens is that, younger generations come up and they see that whatever that next level is now something that becomes the standard for them.
wow.
And that's really, really important. I don't know what that means in terms of art, because there aren't the same sort of objective
Right. It's not
criteria.
It's not a just
Right.
press that button.
Exactly.
And the button turns green.
It's not
and
like
that's it.
it's
Yeah.
not like there's nothing particularly magical about people always say the classic artistic thing people always say when they want to talk about how they can't draw, they're like, I can't even draw a straight line. I'm like, well, yeah, don't worry about that. We got rulers for
Right.
that. So
Right.
those purely mechanical things aren't the sort of thing that you can objectively say, all right, this is what makes something good.
And that's what it is. Art is
Yeah.
objective. So.
Yes, exactly.
Now, anything that you're working on privately, like yourself, anything that you?
I don't have any like real high profile stuff that I could
Okay.
go out there and promote. I'm out. I'm easily Googleable because I have a fairly unique name.
Okay.
I'm out there on all the various platforms that one is out there on.
So can people reach out to if
People,
they have questions?
they can
and stuff?
certainly reach out to me
Okay,
if they have
awesome.
questions. I'm at tristanelwell.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I'm pretty easy to find.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the
finding
opportunity.
us and allowing us to, talk to you today. Really
Great.
appreciate it. And you're watching SEV Network. Thank you very much. And we will continue live at Fanfare.